So the interesting thing today is two things. Number one, I'm playing around with some of the real-time production capabilities in OBS, such as this capability that makes it possible for me to, excuse me, make very convenient transitions between different screens and screen setups, and such as this one, which by the way points me to the next thing that I wanted to take a look at. What is kind of interesting here is that I'm looking at my my YouTube analytics, and as you can see, both in terms of viewed minutes and pretty much for the most part in terms of viewed time, with the Healed by Grace film trailer being sort of an anomaly here, basically what you see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The first 9 items are all Blender Grease Pencil, not OpenToonz. So that's kind of interesting, and it sort of suggests that if I want to develop the YouTube channel, maybe I should be using the Blender Grease Pencil a little bit more. Well, this came up just a few days ago, or maybe it was yesterday actually, and when I was talking about an animation principle, and the principle is one that I call building out. Okay, what is building out? Building out is kind of what you see here with the Blender keyframes. That's interesting. I'm scrolling with my middle mouse button and nothing's happening. So I wonder why that would be. Let's find out for a moment. Yeah, it appears we can't just like scroll it that way, but in any case, building out means just drawing the individual drawings, the keyframes or the key drawings of your animation, and then when you have the need to add in-betweens or add detail or whatever, you just simply add another keyframe in between and you build out from the least amount of drawing possible to as much drawing as you need. Well, what's interesting about it is that working that way, as I mentioned in a video a couple days ago, actually makes the Blender Grease Pencil once again kind of a viable tool. And the reason it's a viable tool is because at the point of creating a storyboard, you're basically building out. You're drawing still frames, kind of like a comic book, that describe what your animation's going to be. Okay, and then an animatic, you might introduce some motion into that, but it's still going to be minimalist. If you don't know what an animatic is, I'll tell you what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find an animatic here on YouTube. And what I'm going to do is I'm turning the volume down, and let's go to this screen, and let's just transition here, and you can see this would be what you'd call an animatic. Okay, so you're seeing the simplified art, etc., etc. Okay, so now what's interesting about your animatic is that it's really kind of a simple and convenient thing to go ahead and turn an animatic into a finished animation. And the way you do it is you just keep inserting more and more frames in between until you build out your action. So that's basically what I'm doing here. Is with the video I believe I posted yesterday, there were this frame wasn't in there. And by the way, I want to add one thing about Blender. In Blender, by default, when you're toggling through keyframes like this, to go to the next keyframe, you would hit the up arrow button. Okay. And then to go, so I would be hitting up arrow, up arrow, up arrow, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow. For me, that is completely non-intuitive. I know this is probably nitpicking, but to me, when I'm going downstream, down to, down the road, I'm going down. And obviously when I'm going back, I'm going up. So for me, I just reversed the hotkeys. So if you don't know how to do that, you just go into your user preferences, and I need to move this down here. And then in input, if you just search here on keyframes, I believe it was keyframes. Actually, let me try next. Okay. Well, this is classic Blender. I actually set these hotkeys on my laptop, and now that I'm on the hot machine, doesn't seem to want to. Yeah. Okay, so keyframe, this is interesting. If I type keyframe, maybe I was looking at it a moment ago and didn't see it. Now it's there. Okay, whatever. It's these two keys, jump to keyframe, up arrow and down arrow. I just reversed them. I just clicked here and made it down arrow instead of up arrow, and that made it behave the way I want. So anyway, so why is Blender a viable tool for this stage in the animation process? Well, basically because by using these minimalist drawings in an animatic form, I can render out just these drawings and then drag them into OpenToonz for inking. Or if I get bold enough and spend enough time with Blender 2.8, maybe I will drag this into Blender 2.8 for inking, ink and paint and the like. I'm just going to let that unfold organically. So if I am spending some time with Blender 2.8, things are going well, then I may go ahead and find myself using it more and more. We'll see. But at this point, my go-to tool for ink and paint is definitely going to be OpenToonz. But my point is that up until the point where you're going to do ink and paint, it really doesn't matter. I mean, in other words, up to the point of the pencil test, for me, doesn't really matter a bit whether I'm using OpenToonz or Blender. They both seem to kind of each work equally well. So I'm going to put a little X here on her shoulder, and I tend not to actually use the onion skins a lot. What I do is like right now I'm just holding my stylus over this shape, and then I can see where it moves to. So the in between on the shoulder is going to be about there, and given this rough deltoid size. Okay, now you could make the point though that her deltoid does change orientation, like so. So here it would probably be something like that. Okay, so now we're going to say, well, here's her elbow, and so let's just see what that line's going to do. Okay. And of course, I'm not even addressing the matter of easing. Let's go ahead and turn these guys on, actually. Yeah, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, presumably, there's going to be an arc there. and so that arc puts the elbow here. As you can see, you know, others may disagree, but I actually find onion skinning is usually more harmful than useful, actually. So boom, boom, boom. Okay, so now this is going to be kind of a, that's kind of the way Frazetta used to do arms a little bit. Not that I'm comparing myself to Frazetta. I know, Frazetta is much better than me. 1, 2. Okay, so we got this morphing to there. So I'm going to say that's going to be something like that. And then we've got this measurement here. What we could do actually is cheat. This is one of the nice things about the Blender grease pencils. I can just go Control C, go to the next keyframe, Control V, and now by hitting the G key I can drag this to here, and then I'm going to make sure that I've hit the period key, set the cursor here around the elbow, and then rotate. So again, that's one of the things about the Blender grease pencil that's quite nice. Okay, and I'm gonna say, let's stretch that out a little bit, and then kind of refine that shape a bit. Okay, so now we're back up at the top, and her arm's kind of, her hand I should say, kind of like this, and we're really not seeing much of a change in orientation from here to here. So now the question becomes, what would happen in the passing pose would actually, this, I may regret this, but I think the passing pose would actually cause her wrist to bend. Boom, boom, like that. Okay. Hilt. Okay, now this is actually coming out from her fingers. Let's just kind of sort of match that. Well, let's see here. This doesn't actually work. I got some bad physics here going on. Get rid of that as well. I'm gonna hit the plus key a couple times while my eraser's invoked so that the eraser gets bigger. I tend to use a big eraser. It's like just get in there and get the lines out and redo them, as opposed to trying to sort of judiciously erase as little as possible. I mean, there's just a lot of cases where it's faster to just redraw things. Okay, so her blades. And by the way, this has I'm looking up where the webcam used to be. The this action, I would say it doesn't have a lot to do with the anime that's currently in process in OpenToonz. Yeah, we've got to animate her breast. But in a way it does, because I should actually probably open this. So just for fun, I'm going to put on this big screen because I'm practicing doing my transitions. So let's open OpenToonz and the next screen down, and I'll show you what's currently going on. Bada bing, bada boom. And it's opening up. Okay, so what I'm getting at is that if we go down here to, I don't know, it's in the 200s, I believe. We get to the place in the story where we're doing what I call the build out. Okay, so I just started with simple drawings. A few of them are inked, but basically this is just the story recap for those of you who don't know it. And I've just been doing it like a comic book, putting in these bits of dialogue. And so there's this dialogue going on between these two, and she knows something's up, and she hears some footsteps in the hall, and he knows something's going on as well. You see his eyes darting. And then we got this overhead shot where somebody comes in here and she thinks it's her friend Zen, and suddenly she realizes that that's not Zen. But this guy's kind of dignified and, so sorry if my minions frightened you, apologize. And this guy apologizes to his master when in fact he's supposed to be apologizing to the lady. These other guys file in behind this guy, as we see there again. And so, you know, the whole apology thing. So now, please drop your weapon. So she's not sure what to do, so she decides to go ahead and drop the weapon, which kind of sucks. But he made the strategic mistake of saying, that's better, now be a good girl. You don't call her. You don't treat Akari like that. So all of a sudden, she's ticked, but he's unflappable, you know. And so as he's walking out, his other guys pull out their weapons, which I thought that came out pretty good. And now she grabs the knife again, and she's preparing for battle. So that's where we're at. So in that sense, the stuff I'm doing in Blender it's not directly contributing to the OpenToonz work, but I thought, you know, as long as I'm fiddling around with the Blender grease pencil, I might as well work out some action related to Akari swinging her blade, because there's going to be quite a battle. I mean, that I'm going to have to animate. You know, there's a bit of work to do here. So now I'm going to just try to, you know, it's always a balance between just drawing what you know versus trying to leverage what's been drawn in the previous frames, right? So, okay, that's not horrible. So I'm kind of tending to favor just drawing. So basically, if I know what her basic pose is, I prefer to draw her from scratch for the most part. Okay, so anatomically, I kind of like what I did there, but right here it kind of falls apart. So I've got to, I guess, fall back on my new drawing skills to say, well, you know, anatomically, what's really going on here? I'm not trying to say that I'm doing the greatest job ever, because I'm not, but okay, that's not bad. Okay, so going back up to the top, this is the key that's new, and so what I'm looking at now is her little hair thingy. I don't even know what you call that. Okay, it's flipped up here and flipped down here, so presumably it would be kind of making its way down here. And again, now I'm not thinking about the previous drawing, I'm actually thinking about her and what I know she looks like. See? Okay. Okay, that's not bad. A little bit of a dance there. Right? Okay. Seems like that's slightly too far. Or maybe this one, actually. You don't want to screw up a woman's bosom, you know, that's kind of an important part of their anatomy, I think, probably for a lot of ladies. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so there's the big slice, and of course, as long as we're fixated on the bosom, we see that it kind of bounces when she when she does her move. So so that would be kind of, there needs to be a little bit of an arc here to her anatomy, and frankly that should actually bounce out, I think. Yeah, that's not too bad. Now there's definitely a little bit of a change here in her face as we go through to the and by the way, as long as I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna go ahead and make this dark, make it black. Okay. So, pencil tests in Blender Grease Pencil. Boom. Gotta get that ear in there. So this. So the one thing you want to be careful of is you can draw in such a way as to suggest what's there. Like this is obviously super sketchy, and that's okay unless it's so suggestive and sketchy that when you go to ink it, you don't actually know what you were supposed to do. I've had that happen a couple times where I realized that I sort of took for granted that I was going to be able to draw things accurately at the inking stage, and turned out I needed to go back and add more details at the pencil test stage. Now, if this was actually going to be from the show, then she would be in her nightie, in fact. Which I assume is... Okay, don't quote me on this. I don't know if her nightie goes down to her knees, or I actually don't. That's something I'm going to have to ask. Not sure what my distinguished director had in mind. I say director, she's my partner. Okay, so we'll go ahead and okay, so she's moving this way, then the cloth would be dragging behind, right? So you get something along those lines, and there shouldn't be like a belt. There's no belt when you're okay. And I'm gonna shrink the eraser back down, because what I want to do is I want to get, you know, as long as I'm both building out in terms of adding animation frames and also cleaning up, what I want to do is move this closer and closer to finished art. You know, either inked or inkable. A little bit too much muscle there on the arm, I think. Okay. Okay. Boom. Boom, boom. Okay, so this is interesting. This would actually cause a crazy floof of her skirt, wouldn't it? So we'll floof it. Now, if you're really going to sort of tease this a little bit, you might do something like that. So you're getting obviously perilously close to showing things that you're not supposed to be showing. You know, that's anime. I heard somebody talking about British humor one time. Made the comment that he said, you know, with British humor, we like naughty. We like naughty. We don't like dirty. And I thought, you know, That's true. I mean, sometimes it's fun to be a little bit naughty, but that doesn't mean you get into the realm of being dirty. Now, did Kill a Kill cross the line? Great question. I would say it came perilously close, but I don't know that it ever crossed the line. You know, I let my, at that time, what, 14-year-old boy watch it. But you know, the thing about it is, as a dad, I watch these things with him. You know, we talk about, you know, what's good, what's bad, what might be objectionable or concerning, or, you know what I mean? I try to sort of sort through these questions with the child. Not bad. I don't know why I had her in some kind of stupid Fantastic Four suit here. I don't know what I was thinking. But I guess we'll, again, add a tiny hint of naughty like that. You know, it's all in good fun. You know, it's wink wink kind of thing. Okay. Well, you know, in the filmmaking realm, what I'm known for is films that are essentially Christian films, you know, and so there tends to be kind of a higher higher moral standard that people want to apply, you know. And yet, at the same time, I think, you know, what are we? Are we in denial about human nature? You think if you're a spiritual person or whatever that you don't, you know, think the same things and enjoy the same things everyone else does? Of course you do. Of course you do. And if you want to measure the actual spiritual maturity of your friend who claims to be real spiritual, simply ask them about something like that and see if they're willing to tell you the truth. Because if they deny, if they're basically denying that they're actually a normal person, then that means they have a hard time telling the truth, which means that their spirituality is actually less about what they really believe is good or right or true, and it's actually more about their own sense of personal security, feeling comfortable. And a lot of times, you know, this is the ironic dilemma, is a lot of times being comfortable is more desirable to people than being truthful, which seems really crazy if you're spiritually sort of an idealistic person who wants to think that, hey, if a person considers themselves spiritual, then I think I should be able to depend on them to, you know, tell me the truth, even if the truth doesn't reflect really well on themselves. How did I get going down this road? Oh yeah, because of Akari's sexy nightie. Right? Okay, so this pose is bizarre, actually. I find it's a good pose. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this extra stuff that was really there, just to see if I had it anatomically in the right ballpark, and save my work. Remember, save early, save often. Okay, so what I'm saying is that if this whole sequence actually went down, that pose does not make any sense, and it doesn't really look like her either. It's like this is a cool pose all its own. It's one of the first ones I drew, actually, and sort of worked back from there, if I remember correctly. So, oops. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can work with it. This may be an exercise in futility actually, but yeah, it's worth a try. I kind of want to maintain that expression. Okay, so now obviously we've got a real problem with her eyes. Basic rule on this show is that her eyes are trapezoidal. Essentially, that's the basic shape of her eyes. And then you sort of smooth that out a bit, and, right? So there's the design of Lucari's eyes. So here we've kind of lost that, haven't we? We've lost it in a whole bunch of scribbles. So I think just to keep things simple, I'm going to get rid of her eyes completely and just redo it. Okay. And now what I'm doing is I'm thinking about, in my mind, what I'm seeing here. Pretty exciting, huh? Okay, and of course the hair thingy needs to sort of come. And I want to keep her looking in the same basic direction. And I may have to, who knows, I may do some sculpting to sort of cheat. That's not bad. It does look like, it looks like the same person, I think now. Yes. This is probably the most rogue panel at this point. In terms of her eyes, it's awful sketchy. Okay, so one problem I do see is that I'm going to actually go, let's see, hit the G key. Let's see. Alright, is this because only render is on? Yeah, for some reason, as you can see, oh, I know why. It's because I hit the period key. Aha! Okay. I'm going to hit go, and then or G, and I'm going to hit shift to just shift that forward a little bit. Yeah, it's better. Okay. Now, in practice, if this were a real thing, it is true that the drawing that is really the least careful at this point is also the one that's the least important, because it's when she's swinging the blade, and clearly this is going to go by pretty fast. Yeah, see, look at that. Yeah, right there, that line's definitely wrong. Okay. And again, I have to say that while it was commendable of me to want to draw her legs in there just to make sure I had things positioned properly, the truth is, a lot of the time, the stuff that is off the, out of the camera's view actually does not matter that much. As long as it feels right, that's the important thing. So in this case, I think that that's gonna down. Okay, she seems to have a bit of a long neck right there. Yep. So I'm going to go Control. I'm going to grab all these guys and see if I can actually just go down. Okay, so right there you're seeing one of the nice things about the Blender grease pencil. I'm sorry, I keep looking up here. I'm looking at the webcam that doesn't exist. The webcam's here. Boom, 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 boom. And of course, the question from an acting standpoint, I was just making up these poses just to have something to draw, really. One of the questions would be, why would she go from here, where she's looking down at something, to here where she's definitely not? So that's a little bit silly. The way I'm going to deal with that is to just try redirecting her eyes and see if it kind of works. I mean, this doesn't matter too much, obviously. Again, this is just a keyframing exercise. But yeah, that works. Okay, so now we've gone about 30 minutes. And what have we done? Well, we basically added this keyframe right here, which looks pretty tight, I must say. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, I'm going to be a little more picky about some of the continuity from frame to frame. You know, again, if this is going by really fast, can we get away with this a bit? Yeah, we can. But I guess the key would be this. Are you aware of what you're getting away with? If you're making mistakes and you're saying, well, I can do that because I know this is going to go by really fast, the audience will never see it, and so I can be a little less meticulous on this particular point or this particular drawing, that's fine. If you're bombing the detail and don't really realize you're doing it, that's not so much fine. That would be kind of my measure of whether your cheating is okay. Is it a conscious decision to cheat because you know what's important and what's not, versus you're just not capable of drawing your character accurately from frame to frame, which is certainly something I've been learning. You know, I've definitely gotten a lot better in the last year at that very thing, and realize how important it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like that. Okay. Because frankly, this is supposed to be a blur. It's supposed to be a blur, I tell you. And if this was in a real show, this is actually what I would literally do. I would just put the action in there and let this go by over the course of one frame, and you would find that it looks pretty good. Let's test that. Let's go ahead and save the work, and then let's go back here and let's change this to 24 frames a second. So, whoops, divided by 1. Okay, so now the whole thing goes by really, really, really stupidly fast. Got it? Right. So I'm going to hit the B key, sorry, in order to do this, I have to be in the specific channel. So what I'm going to do is, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Let go. B key, grab these guys, and then let's go, move them downstream. Let's push this up to, let's say 50 or 60 frames. And so now we're going to say, let's just go every 6. 6, 12, 18. And then what I'm going to do is stretch these out. Boy, I don't like the way I can't drag with my middle mouse. It must be because I'm used to doing it in Reaper. Okay, so now what you see is that this one shot goes by in 1 frame. Everything else is stretched out. If there's 6 frames a piece, you could think of it as being you know, on 6s. See? Okay, so now let me fine-tune it even more. I would push this up, hold this, so I'm going to hit these guys. Okay, actually I need to click. There's so few of them, I can go ahead and just grab them. So this is actually a very interesting exercise. Okay, so I think the threat would be here, so I'm going to put that on 3s. And let's see if we do that on a 2. Okay, you see what I just did there? I left the swipe on 2 frames instead of 1. Okay, so now I'm going to push this up here. Let's go to 4. 4 is actually okay. Not great. Let's do 3. 3 is okay. 2 is okay. And 1 is okay. Boom. I think 2 is best. That's my opinion. So now we see the full action. And what okay, so, and I'm going to wrap it up here, but the flaw that I see is basically that once she makes this move, I don't like this face. I think what she would do is she would, because she's got this irritated thing going on, so she would swing and she would still have the irritation, and then the look of, oh my gosh, what did I just do? That look would then appear on her face. So there's definitely a flaw there in terms of the quote-unquote story that I'm telling. But having said that, I'm not really trying to tell the story here per se anyway. I'm just trying to get some practice. So now getting back to the thing of building out. If I was going to take this material and bring it into OpenToonz as a raster level, just for the purpose of that's my guide that I'm going to ink over, right? I would not want this timing to be all worked out. I would want the timing to have been done in OpenToonz. So what I would do is I'd go back to this scenario, and as I sort of alluded to in a video the other day, what I would do is I would just work through my timing like what are you doing? You know, I'm on, you know, watch it, buddy. That'll show you, you know, whatever. Okay. So now we only have 6 frames. We actually have 0 through 6. So then the way I would bring this into OpenToonz, I would just go 0 through 6, and then I would render that as probably a ping sequence. And probably one thing you want to be careful of if you do that is because if you look at this, if you render it, you see there's no background. So in your render settings there, you would probably want to go alpha mode is sky. Okay, so then this would be the sequence of drawings. And the other thing is, in here, I've got to remember you want to, I cannot remember, number of characters defines the position and length of frame numbers. I believe, let's give this a try. I'm going to go ahead and go to anime. Let's go render, and let's just create a, we'll call this blender temp, just because I don't really want to put it somewhere and find out it didn't work. So what I'm going to do is blender 0000 dot, and what that should do is render it from 0000 to 0006. Well, it would actually be 5, wouldn't it? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and through 6. Okay. And I'm going to start at 0, by the way. Like that. Okay. And so for output, I've already got ping selected, but as you saw, I baked the background into it through my OpenGL render options, alpha mode sky instead of transparent. Alright, and so now I render the animation. Okay, that's interesting. What just happened? Control 11. Control F11. And there is nothing. Okay. It looks like by default Blender added four digits. So what it actually did was it did blender.0000, I think it was an underscore, and then 4 more digits, which is not what I wanted. Okay, so now the question becomes, why did it not render this? If we hit render there, we get nothing. Oh, I know why. I'm sorry, my stupid attack. It's got to be an OpenGL render. So I'm going to go Control F11. I'm sorry, my bad. That's for playback. Control F10. Okay. Now, we should be able to go in. I'm just browsing to the render Blender temp folder. Yes. And as we see, we have exactly what we wanted, which is we've got these erroneous ones that I'll go ahead and delete. Okay, so now as you can see, we have our 7 drawings, so that's perfect. So now we should be able to go to OpenToonz, and let's, just to be sort of careful, I'll hit insert here and then go down to here, and we're going to go file. Let's load a level. I think we can do it that way. So root, this is going to actually be, I gotta sort of do this the hard way. Anime, I will put it in the render folder, Blender temp. And it says malformed name, skipping frame. I'm going to go ahead and, that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. So I think we're going to have to revisit this on another day. OpenToonz has found all kinds of problems here. But yet, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's the 0 indexing. That's the problem. Okay, I never knew that before. So if you don't know what I mean by that, I'm pretty sure, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure here's what's going on. If you're going to render out of Blender, start at 1. like I had it already. Don't start at 0. And in this case, what I probably want to do is grab the box and hit the G key and move it all 1 frame forward, so that the action literally starts on frame 1. Okay. And what I'm going to do is delete this frame entirely, or this level. I'm going to save all. So this is kind of an important thing to understand. Okay, and I'm actually going to go in here and I'm going to delete all these because I want to start clean here. So I think what's going to happen now, if I hit Control F10, is Blender's going to render frames 1 through 7. Okay, let's check and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now I'm pretty sure OpenToonz will not choke on the image sequence. Never knew that before today, and I've seen the malformed image name warning before. I never knew exactly what was causing it, but now through this trial and error, I think we may have figured it out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Insert here and click there, and now I'm going to go File, Load a Level, and it's going to be Computer, L Drive, Anime, Render, Blender Temp. Yep, see, look, it's not choking on it now. That's great. So now I can load this in, and I think for my sanity, just to be careful, I don't usually do this. I usually load everything externally, but I think in this case I'm going to import it so that it makes new copies of these drawings in its own folder. Okay, so this is kind of a cool thing. So now we've gone from this sequence here, and we've added these drawings from Blender that we can now use as a basis for inking. Now in practice, I'm probably not going to use them because I don't even know where this would fall in the story, you know. But we are getting ready for a battle, so let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and actually lower this down to like 8, so we can just kind of watch this go by. So anyway, you know, here's what we've learned is there's no problem at all with using the Blender Grease Pencil as a tool for working out your keyframes, your drawings, and your in-betweens. It's just that at this point in history, I still prefer not to use it for inking or paint. You know, no ink and paint. Okay, I've been bitten in the bunsies too many times. So anyway, that's cool. It's 53 minutes. I think that's good for today, and I'll go ahead and get this uploaded. And as you guys know, as I often say, you know I'm going to be back later.